Hello everybody, thank you for connecting to this presentation. Today I'd like to share with you the research named Model of Best Practice Representation for Any Knowledge Area by using Pre-conceptual Schemas. I'm Camilo Villota and together with Carlos Mario Zapata PhD, Alexander Baron PhD, and Hector Hernandez are the authors of this research. We are researchers of Nariño University and National University of Colombia. This is the content of this presentation. First, I'm going to present the introduction. The next thing, I will share with you the context of this research. The next section will be about background. Continuing, I will present the solution. By the end of this presentation, I will speak about the conclusions and future work. For the introduction, I can say that best practice representation allows for exposing the activities leading to successful results. Also, graphical representation of best practice helps to synthesize knowledge. In this research, we propose a model for representing best practices. Anyone can use and learn preconceptual schemas. Executable preconceptual schemas allow for representing samples. And finally, this model is validated with a set of best practices in orthopedic team against COVID-19. For this point, we have two important concepts. The first is best practice. We found a set of definitions. Zulansky defines a best practice like an ideal way to execute an activity. Camp speaks that are practice leading to superior performance. Johannesen defines a best practice like activities and ideas recognized over time by agreement among experts. Xu and Ye affirm that best practice are activities leading to successful results, and Baron proposed the general model for naming practices. The next concept is preconceptual schemas, that are graphical knowledge representation of discourse elements with a controlled language relative to a particular domain. Preconceptual schemas are semi-formal specification anyone can use and learn. The use of preconceptual schemas eases common understanding of context knowledge. Executable preconceptual schemas allow for representing examples with values stored in their concepts. In this slide, you can see the main elements used in graphical representation by using preconceptual schemas. The first element corresponds to concept, referred to the different nouns or noun phrases contained in the stakeholder speech. A class concept can appear only once in the representation, while a leaf concept can be repeated. The second element is connection, the way concepts are linked with the relationship. The third element is structural relationship, expressed with the verbs be and have, which generate a permanent relationship between concepts involved. The set formed with a concept, a structural relationship, and another concept linked by connection in the same direction is called the structural triad. Also, we can see elements used in the graphical representation by using executable preconceptual schemas. The first element corresponds to class concept, that refers to concepts with attributes inside. Class concepts can be instantiated. Class concepts are recognized because they are the head of a structural relationship of type has. The second element is sheet concepts, related to the attributes of a class concept. A sheet concept can be repeated in the representation. Sheet concepts are specified firstly with the name of the attribute, followed by the symbol equal with the value that it takes. In quotes when it is an alphanumeric value, and without quotes when it is a numeric values. The sheet concept is recognized because the structural relationship ends on it. Okay, for the background, we analyze a set of graphical representation. In this presentation, we're going to present the main. The first is the graphical representation of best teaching practices. We found that a complete interpretation of this graph is only possible with the complete reading of the theoretical documentation. Also, elements are presented in different shapes, sizes, and colors. Some isolated elements exist within the representation. Unidirectional arrows are presented without a relationship with the other elements of the representation. And isolated circles are shown inside the representation. The second element that we found is the best practice in nursing care. We found the representation is fuzzy, since elements of best practice as objectives or outcomes are explicit in the representation. Way of naming practices is inadequate. The representation exhibits different types of elements without a defined shape or clear combination between them. For example, ovals, rectangles, arrows, and triangles. Overlapped elements lead to unknown relationship between elements. And the authors use a non-standard notation. Finally, the third element is the graphical representation of best practice in dairy farms. We found that even though the way of naming practice is adequate, no elements of best practice, for example, results, activities, and responsibilities, can be identified. The level of detail in the representation is too general, leading to difficulties for applying the best practice by untrained users. And finally, the concepts have no elements for specifying relationship or actions between them. As a result of the background analysis, a number of recurring problems are found in graphical representation of best practice. In this table, you can see the grouped problems. For example, inappropriate use of symbols, incomplete information in the representations, representations with lack of standardization, absence of best practice elements, inhomogeneous level of specificity, imprecise practice name. For the solution, we defined two phases. The first is characterization. This is the first phase of the model definition. The function of each concept is determined and then represented by using pre-conceptual schemas. We look for a way to use a common ground and easy knowledge abstraction and comparison of elements. Characterization is performed based on the proposal stated. We also include some other proposals in order to strengthen the comprehension of the elements commonly involved in the definition of best practice. For the second phase, we define common elements. After characterizing best practice for some authors and obtain preconceptual schemes, we perform an analysis in order to extract common elements for integrating the model proposing in this research. We find these common elements in the literature related to best practice model. Method referred to the set of best practice. Name referred to the name of the set of best practice. It is usually defined in a specific knowledge area. Description referred to the contents of the set of best practice. It is also used as the summary of this method. Central topic referred to the knowledge area to which the set of best practice belongs. Author referred to the creator or creators of the set of best practices. Objective referred to the purpose or goal to be achieved by applying the set of best practice. As a basic structure of objective, we propose the use of an achievement verb at the beginning as suggested by Zapata et al. Date referred to the time indicator for create or updating the set of best practices. Practice referred to a repeatable approach to doing something with a specific object in mind. Best practice objective referred to the purpose goal to be achieved by executing the processes or activities of a best practice. As a basic structure of the best practice objective, we propose the use of an achievement verb at the beginning. Process refers to the context for explaining how a best practice can be performed. Activity refers to the set of actions defined into a best practice. As a basic structure of the activity, we propose the use of a verb related to action operation at the beginning. Responsible, the person or group in charge of executing activities in the best practice. Outcome refers to the outputs a best practice is expected to produce. As a basic structure of the result, we propose the use of a noun or noun phrases. Now, you can see the pre-conceptual schema related to the description of the set of best practice. In this slide, we have method, has name, description, central topic, author, objective, and date. In this slide, we propose the pre-conceptual schema related to the elements of the best practice. In this case, best practice has name, best practice has process, process has outcome, responsible, activity, and objective. And finally, in this slide, we present the structure for naming the best practice. In this case, best practice has name, and name has nominalized verb, adjective, and noun. The entire model is obtained by combining such preconceptual schemas as we proposed in the past slides. We advise that our model can be applied to any knowledge area. In this case, we have the model complete. You can see in yellow color the description of the set of best practice. Method has name, description, central topic, author, objective, and date. Method has best practice. Best practice has process. Process is the green color. Process has objective, activity, responsible, and outcome. And best practice has name, purple color. Name has nominalized verb, has adjective, and name has noun. We developed a case study of best practice related to educational area based on events. In this case, you can see the graphical representation of best teaching practices before to apply our model. Now you can see the executable preconceptual schema related to best teaching practices after to apply our model. In the header, you can see values in the concept. Name, best teaching practice, description, provide elements to teachers for their teaching work. Central topic, university teaching. Author, EduQtech. Objective, achieve quality and continuous improvement. Date, 5 May 2011. In this slide, you can see the table of class concept name of best teaching practice. You can see the first column correspond to best practice ID. The second nominalized verb. The third is adjective, and the last column is noun. In this case, you can read every best practice like ordered planning work calendar, clear presentation of planned activities, objective evaluation of knowledge, and continue. The second table corresponds to class concept process of best teaching practice. In this case, we describe every responsible activity, outcome, and objective for every best practice. You can see here every ID of best practice with the responsible activity, outcome, and objective. For example, for the best practice 1, you can use for responsible organization. The activity is analyze subjects to teach. The outcome is subject file, and the objective is manage work schedule. And continue. We validate the model of best practice proposed in this research by applying it to a set of best practice in orthopedist teams against COVID-19. We studied the documentation in order to extract what we need to fill in the lift concept of the model. This is the graphical representation to executable pre-conceptual schema related to best practice of orthopedic teams against COVID-19. You can see values in the concept. Method has name, best practice for orthopedic teams. Descriptions provide elements to orthopedic teams for COVID control. Central topic, COVID-19 control. Authors and objective achieve viral COVID-19 controls and date 1st April 2020. The second part of this model is the class concept name of best practice related to orthopedist teams against COVID-19. In this case, we found three best practices. The first best practice corresponds to careful operation of suspected COVID patients. The second best practice is careful operation of confirmed COVID patients. And third best practice is proper usage of personal protective equipment. In the case of the class concept process of best practice related to orthopedist teams against COVID-19, we can see this table. For the best practice 1, we have a surgeon as responsible. We have the first activity like use a designated negative pressure operating room. The outcome is controls and the objective is safeguard surgeons. And continue. For the conclusion, in this research we propose a model for representing best practice related to any field of knowledge by characterizing a set of best practice proposals in some areas of knowledge. Each proposal was presented in a preconceptual schema with the aim of extracting a common ground of the representation of different authors in order to ease their analysis. The model proposal was built as a contribution to the solution of the readability problems identified in graphical representation of best practice proposals. Structured language provided by the preconceptual schemas allows for the specific usage of elements during the definition of the model. Graphical representation of the model proposed was developed by using preconceptual schemas for allowing the construction of a semi-formal model easy to learn for practitioners when extracting knowledge from best practice. The proposed model can be used in any area of knowledge due to its standardized structure. We could also represent specific sets of best practice by using executable preconceptual schemes. The model includes elements for describing set of best practice, essential elements of best practice, and elements to name practices. The following some steps for proposing our model is characterizing best practice proposal from different authors, defining common elements from the proposals and background analysis, and construction of the model. We use the process for naming practice from the model for practice denomination of Baron in order to improve the proposed model. since best practice can be better identified. Essential elements obtained from this research belong to a standardized structure and a complete representation of knowledge. We validate our proposed model by applying it to a set of best practice in orthopedic teams against COVID-19. The validation allowed for obtaining relevant information related to this file of knowledge. In addition, the validation allowed to identify the drawbacks previous proposal exhibits. For the future work, we have 2 points. The first is creating a knowledge base of best practice classified by knowledge area. Be advised that the linguistic structure reflected by the pre-conceptual schema is always the same for any knowledge area, so we expect to determine a fixed set of nominalized verbs and adjectives for naming practice in a cross-cutting way along knowledge areas. The second point is using the proposed model of best practice for defining a set of quality metrics in order to evaluate the performance of the best practice according to the structure that we provide. And finally, we have the reference. Thank you so much.